Hello, my name is Zoe Brester-Pennings, and I am a first-year printmaking graduate student at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. And today I'm going to talk to you about my art and my artistic practice over the years. But first, I wanted to give you a brief background about myself. This is a photo of me in my grandmother's nail salon when I was very blonde. And to the left is another photo of me holding two Pomeranian puppies with perfectly manicured hands. Not many people know, but my family is Vietnamese. To the right is myself, my mother, and my grandmother. My mother was actually born in Vietnam, and people always assumed growing up that I was adopted because I don't look like the rest of my family. And as you can see to the left, my artistic practice and obsession with self-portraiture started very early. And on the right, you can see a 15-year-old's attempt at trying to exude confidence and beauty with their very proud grandmother on the right, holding on for dear life. I also have a firm belief that the media that we consume influences our work, which is no surprise, but I also want to explore this idea of femininity in perceptions and performances, as well as our perceptions of reality and how we go about life. I also really think that humor is important in how we approach life and art. For example, here is a very humorous meme that I found on the internet re-examining Jean Baudrillard's theory of the simulacra and the simulacrum in reference to the phenomena of pumpkin spice. But I also want to talk about how humor influences my work as far as putting inherent value on the artist object, which is somewhat absurd. So, for example, Piero Manzoni's artist shit, coupled with recent Belle Delphine's Gamer Girl bathwater, both of which are essentially human waste products that have value placed upon them. My work is also heavily influenced by artists such as Cindy Sherman, and recently I'm getting very interested in this idea of clown theory and the idea that things have to be personal before they can be universal, because in doing so, you're creating a vulnerability that will break down walls through comedy for your viewer. These are the very first two lithographs I ever made, and I wasn't sure what I was making art about, but I wanted to reference something personal, so these were in reference to my family's living and working at a motel, and kind of having this weird divide from public and private life as well as stigma and beauty. I also would create things such as a GIMP mask, and I would wear it to a Taco Bell while I ate, and I would have my friends take photos of me. This is one of my first multicolor lithographs, and I'm fairly proud of it. I'm also not allowed at this Taco Bell anymore, but that's okay. I continued to play with the GIMP mask through performances, and what works is that my family owning a motel, I was able to do these performances in private, but it also added to the idea of illicit desire as well as privacy and this idea of shame that I wanted to convey in my work. I started to shift the aspect into this idea of beauty and marketing by referencing my family history of my grandmother owning a nail salon by being a model and having these insanely long nails and trying to model things like Cheetos in a very sexy manner and somewhat provocative. Shifting away from the figure, I started to see myself personified in objects such as shrimp chips and spicy mayo. Yes, I'm aware that the S on the shrimp chips is backwards. I'm okay with that. But the idea that making these as prints and placing value on something that is a repeated and multiple, I also wanted to explore by creating prints of things that were really unique but also somewhat crazy, and also making them into this singular print object such as these two monotypes here that are more painterly compared to the rest of my works. I also began to shift more into performance art as I would get into these very over-the-top get-ups with these tight dress that didn't fit, and I would perform to Blondie or what have you while my friends threw food at me. I would then take the video and then use these as stills for future prints, as well as more video art and installations. I also wanted to use a very limited color palette and repeat the figure in a way of conveying the sense of anxiety associated with performative femininity and this idea of this absurd duality that we live in. I also started to branch out into making 3D objects such as the hand-printed gloves and mask to the left, which are filled with expanding foam, as well as the hand-painted vinyl chip bag to the right, featuring handmade legs and other chips also made from fabric and expanding foam. I always use myself as a model for my prints and reference imagery because I feel far more comfortable using myself in these odd situations while not wanting to make other people uncomfortable. With this idea that I'm simultaneously being a trickster and playing these different roles, but I'm also making a fool of myself, which I'm far more comfortable doing. There is a sense of isolation when you're doing these public performances because you're making a public spectacle of yourself, as is the intention, but you're in a very noticeable or stand out sort of outfit. And in doing so, you're exploring a different lens or perspective, but there is something isolating about people not understanding that perspective. When I came to Tennessee, I started to use milk as a symbol for feminine beauty, as I heard once that men age like wine and that women age like milk. And this stuck with me in the sense that perceiving beauty with an expiration date with something so perishable as milk shouldn't be a thing. And pictured here is a reference photo for another print where I am all dressed up at a Cracker Barrel, undergoing the male gaze and just eating some chicken fried steak. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation and have a great day.